So I believe that every sentient being, and I don't believe there are any sentient beings, but I believe that every sentient being is searching for that which fully satisfies. And I think it's largely unconscious. So I would say I was an unconscious searcher until I met Richard Rose. And then the search became semi-conscious, but not even right at that point. I think he opened the heart for me. He opened intuition. The first time I heard him talk, a gong went off inside me. It was like the thing that struck my mind was like one of those big brass gongs that you see people hitting in the movies in the monasteries. You know, you got the mallet and the. And I thought, wow, I didn't know I even had one of those. And the words that hit my mind were, this guy is telling the truth. I've never heard it before, but something in me recognizes it. So to me, that was the opening. So he was like the father of my intuition. Yeah, I think that's actually my heart would like for the first time. But even that, I don't think is a semi-conscious. I still wasn't semi-consciously searching. I was still searching fully unconscious. And when the most aware the mind can be is when you get to the point where you can turn your internal attention or head away from what's not relevant to what you're looking for. And I would challenge you, if you think you can control the mind at all, that there's no direct way to control the mind. For the mind to learn to control itself, it's really closer to that, because there isn't any little guy inside the head, at least nobody's found him yet when they've been doing an autopsy, who's pulling these strings, making things happen. But so the mind is basically a robotic reaction machine, and the most non-robotic it becomes is when it learns how to use the procrastination technique against itself, you could say. So we're all expert at procrastinating things we don't want to do. And that procrastination technique is basically, I don't got to do it right now. I can do it better tomorrow. I'm tired right now, or whatever. What right now, all you got to do is have a beer. That's what's important. So that same procrastination can be used to become semi-conscious, basically. And that's primarily Richard Rose's meditation recommendation. There were other steps to get there, but that's the primary thing, learning to bring the mind under that amount of control. And so when that happens, things can, by introspecting the mind, so what he recommended is, first of all, you have an objective. And the objective is, it has to be in your own words, but it's something that corresponds to this feeling. You know? And the words that I picked up probably from Rose were to become the truth. And that meant, so I'd felt that feeling, and the words connected to that feeling. It's not going to be the same, obviously, for everybody. But when the mind finds some way to talk to itself about whatever is going to take care of this big hole here, if you feel that, and then you make a determination, no, I'm going to sit here and go for a walk or whatever, and for this next period of time, I'm going to turn my head away from any thoughts, feelings, anything that comes into the mind that's seemingly not relevant to what I'm looking for. So we remind ourselves what we're looking for, and then we have to notice what we're seeing. So to me, the way we generally, the whole day, we're going about, like when I go into a room, I look for something to be right in front of me and I don't see it. So I think generally we don't notice what we're seeing. And the productive form of meditation is to begin noticing what we're seeing and to postpone taking any of those thought trains or feeling trains down the track that aren't relevant to what we're looking for at the time.
Is that Rose's concept of betweenness?
Betweenness is something I'm no great expert in. I'd like to talk to you about that a little bit later and give you some reactions on it. Yeah, betweenness is basically, what's that Chinese term, wu wei? It's doing, not doing. So when you get to a certain point, in fact, yeah, that sort of ties into probably the next thing I wanted to say here, and that's at some point, at some point along the way, we become what Rose referred to as an egoist vector. So if you work for a certain period of time towards something, and you get to the point where you realize there's nothing for me in pursuing this anymore, there's nothing left in it for me. As we introspect the mind, there'll be accidents that happen when our viewing platform seems to move back a step. And all of a sudden we're able to, so you might see the decision-making process at work. You know, we see more and more of the mind's operation. And as that happens, in Rose's paradigm, which was the opposite of Harding's paradigm, in Rose's paradigm, what I'm looking for is the self. The self is within. I don't see it, I don't know it. Right? So anything within is the self. Anything in the view is the seer. It's not, is the seen, not the seer. Right? So there's the observer that I'm looking for. There's the observed. And it starts out being stuff out here. It'll move to thoughts and feelings. Anything that is appearing in the mind is in the field of observation. Right? So as the field of observation expands, the self-definition contracts. So I no longer, I wouldn't say this isn't Art's finger, but I would no longer say that's me. And that's pretty easy to get to that point, right? We know we could lose the fingers and we'd still be here. But you get to the point where, well, yeah, maybe if somebody cut my head off, I would still be here, but I don't really want to test that out. So by logic, I guess you could say, we can pare down our self-definition. So we're looking for the self. We want to realize the self, recognize what we truly are at the core of our being. And so the only way we can do that, the only thing the mind can work with is opposites. We don't know how to get there, right? But we can retreat from what we aren't. And again, that was Rose's basic premise, that you can retreat from untruth. And so as we do that, we gradually lose our identification with this stuff we can see, including thoughts and feelings. But what we can't see is the self back here that's looking, you know, and as quickly as we try to turn around and catch it, it's behind us again. And so between this really has to do with when you get to the point where you see, from the vantage point in your mind that you're now able to see what's going on, you realize what the self that I thought myself to be, this body in Eden mind, this body-mind self, is what's in the way. So pursuing what the mind is becomes a dog chasing his tail faster and faster and faster, and pursuing that is absurd. There's nothing in it for me anymore. Why would I do it anymore? But my conviction is it's just momentum. So a vector, you know probably from physics what that is. It's just a force in a direction. And so after that vector is moving, there's a momentum that's picked up. And I think that's what basically takes us the rest of the way. And between this is hard to talk about, and I'm certainly no expert in it. It's a factor that's worth pursuing and what I'm talking about.